What's the deal, folks? It's March, and you know it's madness, but the road tripping continues. It's the HBCU OG Mark Gray. We are in Norfolk, where they crowned a MEAC basketball championship. It was all about the toughness, and the homestanding folk thought they were going to sweep, but a team from the DMV figured otherwise. It's the HBCU Sports Nation, and we road tripping March Madness style, and we tipping off now.
1, 2, 3, hit it. Black Island move. Ride, come on. Black College, stand up. HBCU.
You know, legends, Hall of Famers, people who've had an impact of the game, those kind of plaudits and platitudes are always spread around with ease. But Psy Alexander has done as much for HBCU basketball as any legendary football coach has done for the HBCU sports brand. The legend is a part of the leadership team that is tipping off this HBCU All-Star basketball game. I got a chance to catch up with him after he finished his national television broadcast for that 4-letter network that's on your cable system. Dig it? As we continue this HBCU road trip, joined by the legendary MEAC coach. I mean, you did it big at a couple schools in the MEAC East Side. Alexander, veteran, legend, Hall of Famer, and also you're part of the Black College All-Star Basketball Game Committee. Let's talk about that movement for a second. And we've been knowing each other for more than 20 years. Would you have ever thought that we'd be at this point with the HBCU basketball game?
Well, I'm so happy to be a part of the HBCU All-Star Game. It was the brainchild of Travis Williams, and I'm glad that he gave me an opportunity to become a part of this. This is historic for HBCU basketball to be a part of the biggest weekend in college basketball, which is the Final Four, and have a platform during that week on a national station, CBS, televised nationally. It's just an outstanding opportunity for HBCU basketball.
Yeah, you've been at this game. I mean, South Carolina State, Tennessee State, North Carolina A&T. You've seen the way that the black college basketball has evolved as a product. It's never been hotter. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think that timing is everything. And I think that a couple things have happened. I think Deion Sanders going to Jackson State, all of a sudden he created a movement, so to speak, and his personality. Then now you've got a lot of former NBA players getting potential opportunities to coach at historically black colleges. You got current NBA players such as Chris Paul, aligning himself with historically black colleges and universities. You got Shaquille O'Neal sending his son and daughter to play at Texas Southern University. So you got LeBron James aligning himself with Mo Williams when he was at Alabama State. So, people timing is everything. And I think the time is right for what's actually going on, and what historically black colleges and universities have to do is now take advantage of this, take advantage of the exposure, come out and support the first annual HBCU All-Star Game in New Orleans. The local people in New Orleans, if you're at the Final Four that Sunday, there's nothing going on but our game. Come out and support, put butts in seats, and that type of exposure, that type of game is not going to do anything but enhance the overall structure of historically black colleges and university sports.
I'm old enough to remember that when the fax machine came out, it was considered a top secret weapon in terms of getting the word out about HBCUs. That was about the same time you could talk to a coach like you were and say, well, why aren't we going after that guy that may be an ACC or a Big East or a Big 10 type talent? we can't get him. Now it's mano a mano.
Yeah. And
Wow.
and I went after them.
Right.
Trust me, I did, and got my share of them.
But you had to get them on transfer, though, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. But the point I'm making is getting them is getting them.
Right.
The bottom line, I got 6 rings because I got them. When you got really good players, that made me a really good coach, you know. So I'm smart enough to know that, you know. So my point is, it's a different age, and because of the transfer portal. The big schools are even coming after now HBCU players like R.J. Cole, one of the top guards in the MEAC 3 years ago.
At Howard,
yes. It's kicking butt now at the University of Connecticut. And that's what the HBCU schools have to be aware of, that if a young man is really good now, you might not have him for a year, but 1 year, because recruiting now is not so much at the high school level, but recruiting off that portal every day.
And people in the pro game look at it as though it's free agency.
Yeah, that's what I call it. I call it free agency in college basketball. That's exactly what I call it.
So is that healthy?
Congrats.
Hey, Coach, congratulations. Juan Dixon, get ready for the finals, y'all. But talk to me for a second about the health and long-term stability of the game and HB switch. You get a kid, and now you think you got him for 2-3 years. He won and done. So how do you make that work?
I tell you what, you're recruiting 10 players every year. You can't count on a guy because he's a freshman that you're going to have him next year. If I was still coaching, I would have one assistant coach that all his job to do was the first 3 hours that he's in the office to watch the watch the portal, because you don't know when you look up to see if Mark Gray's name is in the portal that's one of my players, or if Mark Gray is somebody who's put his name in the portal from University of North Carolina, because that's the way it is, and we say it jokingly, but it is free agency in college basketball now. So again, if you're going to be in it, you got to understand that's the reality of it. And it all stems back, in my opinion, Mark, to AAU basketball. These young people started junior high school transferring, changing teams. In the 7th grade, I didn't get enough minutes on this particular AAU team. Now I'm going to another AAU team, and it just transfers into high school, changing high schools, and it goes on into the college. And that's just the reality of it right now.
You and I are MEAC lifers. We love HBCU, but, I mean, MEAC is part of our DNA.
Right.
I'm worried about my conference, Coach.
Me too.
All right. So what do we got to do to save it?
Well, let's hope that a couple things. We've got to have some vision, and potentially look at some schools that we may not have looked at in the past. I'm not sure if the MEAC is adverse to looking at some PWIs. I mean, the PWIs, mid-major conferences, are looking at our schools.
Right.
The Hamptons, the A&Ts, the Tennessee States, and I coached at all A&T and Tennessee State. Who's to say that we can't look at some PWIs? The whole key is getting enough football schools to be able to keep the football bid going, as far as you got to have at least 6 schools, and so I think that you got to have a little vision, is what I'm saying, and you also got to look at some CIAA or SIAC schools that may financially be able to have the money to come. First 2 schools that come to my mind are Bowie State and Virginia State. I've heard a lot of rumblings about those schools being possibly schools that might be capable of having the finances to participate at the Division I level. But I think that you got to make sure that you're not closed-minded about anything. You've got to have vision, and whatever is the best way to make it work, that's what you got to do.
Now, before I let you go, It's March. You've called, what, 12 games in 3 days? Yeah. Is it tougher calling 12 games in 3 games in 3 days as a broadcaster, or is it tougher coaching 3 days in 3 days, 3 games in 3 days in March?
Trust me, it's much easier calling broadcasting because I'm still undefeated. I'm 12-0. I'm 12-0 in those because Lavelle Moulton is not going to be able to sleep tonight. Right. And when who was that Tark hit the shot on the other night? I forget. Howard.
Kenny Blakeney.
Kenny wouldn't be able to sleep.
He won't sleep all season.
I'm going to sleep really good tonight. But, you know, these guys, I give a lot of credit to all the coaches in the MEAC. I have great relationships with them, been working with them all year, and they called me for advice and this and that. And these guys do a good job. And I'm glad that they're finally getting the recognition and the exposure. And I've always said to you, Mark, the difference was the lack of exposure that guys in my era, myself, the Fang Mitchells, and I think the Fang actually has a documentary coming out.
That's great.
Yeah, so, you know, and again.
And you got a book too.
Yeah, I wrote a book, Beyond the Backboard, my unique HBCU experience in the shadows of big-time college basketball. As far as living coaches, I've won more tournaments than anybody. Don Corbett was number 1. He had 7, and he's deceased, and he was a great coach. I have 6, so I've been blessed, and it's been a great run, and I'm enjoying what I'm doing now. But and I'm really blessed to be a part of this HBCU All-Star experience.
And we blessed to have you. We want you to stick around. So we glad you found a nice, comfortable spot next to the legend of Charlie Neal. You just get on back and let him carry you, and just live like that, right? We all have done that before. This the legendary Psy Alexander, boys and girls. Don't forget HBCU All-Star basketball game in New Orleans on April 4th is sandwiched right in between.
April 3rd.
April 3rd, pardon me. Is sandwiched right in between Final Four Saturday and Championship Monday. No excuse to miss it because it's on the eye. That will be CBS for those of you who are cool impaired. Hey, Coach, it's great to see you. Love you, man.
Thank you, Mark. God bless you,
my band. All right. We got more of what you came here for around the HBCU Sports Nation.
Blackout is moved. Ride, come on. Black College, stand up. HBCU.
Great times in Norfolk and a great basketball tournament, and despite the fact there is a decided home advantage, despite the fact that Norfolk State plays about 10 minutes away from its campus, and technically the Scope Arena is not their home building. When they get a team in the championship game, it is certainly a home court advantage. This was a celebration this week as much about what's happening in basketball as the 50-year legacy that is the MEAC. And while there is a palpable sense of concern about the future of the conference, there is no doubt that the passion for the fan base and amongst those, including myself, who love this conference, will fight to the very end to keep it alive. There may be enormous challenges, defections from the conference, financial circumstances, any one of a number of maladies, but in true resilience that would lead the late Ken Free proud, the conference still stands up and continues to fight. When you walk around buildings and you see MEAC legends such as Bill Hamilton from South Carolina State, Lynn Thompson from Bethune-Cookman, and many other people who are doing yeoman effort as they've done for decades, you get the sense that if the MEAC does go away, it's going to take a Herculean effort, and it's not going to go down without a fight. So if you've given up on the future of the MEAC, let me coin the expression that was made so famous by the great Lee Corso of ESPN. Not so fast, my friend. The MEAC has passion and a championship legacy in basketball that is certainly growing at Norfolk State. And with Howard women, it can be safely said that they are now back. So there's a lot to brag about in the MEAC, and you can only hope that the conference will make it at least another 50 years so that the next generation can continue the bragging along. From the 2022 MEAC basketball tournament in Norfolk, special thanks to my man, Sir Sean Marshawn Powers, for holding things down behind the scenes and on social media. Thank you for hanging out with us. As always, I'm Mark Gray, the HBCU OG, and I look to catch up with you around the HBCU Sports Nation. Deuces up from Norfolk.